Good evening, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and I am here today with Nick's Kix and Comix.
Yeah.
The man with the Great Wall of Comics, Rob Pat Stax himself, and our special guest for this evening that we're going to get to know a little bit better, Eric the Rogue Trader. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing grand, gentlemen, in fine company.
How dare you use such words with us? Gentlemen, I am insulted.
There we go. Shop for Comics. How you doing, sir? Jerry, how are you, buddy? Convex Mike. Just for those of you who don't know, that's my best buddy in the world right there. Convex Mike coming on to show a little support. Thank you, bud. So, Eric, what I'd like to do at the beginning of every show is just let the person introduce himself to our audience. For those who may not know you, just give them a brief summary of yourself and your channel.
Well, my name's Eric, and longtime comic collector. Been collecting comics and into all things that is geek chic since I was like 8 years old, like everybody else. And I started a little YouTube channel. I'm not doing a whole lot with it. We're getting ready to kind of relaunch with another community member and do a weekly show. But not a lot going on. I go live every Wednesday from the local shop. I have a little chat with my local shop owner, and I own a comic book pressing and cleaning service that we started about 3 years ago, and it's doing pretty well.
Nice. And having a local presser and cleaner is really key, at least to me, because I have a local one here. Man, it saves you so much on the turnaround time, and to have someone that you can trust with your books is incredible.
Oh yeah, it's a game changer if you get somebody that's good, that's local. Yeah, stick with them.
Yeah, sure. Gary, do you know what the turnaround times are now?
Oh, I know. I have maybe 20 books out right now.
No. I mean, if you send a book post 1975 book to CGC today for grading and pressing, adding 8 weeks, even though they're 8 to 10 weeks for just receiving it into the system, you're talking late January 2023. And
Wow.
for pre-1975 books, you're talking late February 2023 based off of their current turnaround times.
Yeah, that's nuts. I would never, ever, well, not only that, I would never have a company like CGC or CBCS press my books for me because I don't know who's pressing them or touching them, and I just can't trust it on that level.
Well, in CGC's case, it's supposedly a separate company, right? But they're
right.
But yeah, no, agree. Understood what you're doing, and yeah, it's a long lead time. How are you doing there with your lead times, there, buddy?
What got you into pressing and cleaning, Eric?
Really, what it was is I am typically a low to mid-grade collector. I collect reader copies for my personal collection, and I've always been that way because I read my books. But I used to go to, and back 25, 30 years ago, we didn't have comic book grading, and we had bags and boards, but that was about the extent of it. And so I'd buy books at yard sales and buy them off the rack at the 7-Eleven, and they'd get crumpled and they'd get wrinkled up and everything. And, this is me, 14, 15 years old. My mom was a garment maker and a seamstress. And she had a garment press. And I'm like, well, paper's fiber and cloth is fiber. So let's try ironing it in her garment press. And I tried it out, and that's how I got started pressing comic books.
Wow.
And then I got in, and my real love is history. And I have a degree in archival sciences and restoration of historical documents. So like it just kind of all came together into modern comic book cleaning and pressing.
You and Jerry the Jitterbug would get along great.
Yeah.
He does a lot of restoration and is big into archiving and stuff like that. And wow.
I think between those two now, we have the 9/8 possibility of Amazing Fantasy 15.
Right? And what we got to do is get those two to work on a book together. Now, I've been wanting to do something with you for a while. I've definitely been wanting to talk to you about Flash Gordon, who I know you're a big fan of, but I got a couple questions about it. First, I want to know, did your love from Flash Gordon come from the old serials with Buster Crabbe and Gene Rogers, Charles Middleton, Priscilla Lawson, Frank Shannon, all those guys, or was it from the Sam Jones movie with Brian Blessed, or did it start with the Alex Raymond comic strip?
For me, Flash Gordon was when I grew up. We didn't get cable TV in the small town I lived in until I was 20, 25, 26 years old. So I grew up with 3 channels off air, and we had a channel every Saturday afternoon. They would show an old movie serial, like one episode, and then they'd lead into a science fiction movie of some kind. That's where I saw Planet of the Apes and Godzilla and all that stuff. But it was the Buster Crabbe, Flash Gordon serials from the 30s that really got me into it. And then, of course, in 1980, my mom took me to the double feature. It was Flash Gordon and Swamp Thing, and it was like all over from there.
Wow, how much cheesy fun is that?
Like that was the ultimate. Like I remember everything that happened that day. That was like a pivotal point in my upbringing.
Adrian Barbeau in a crop top. Ooh.
Oh yeah, in a wet crop top.
Yeah. Now, how many of you know that Adrian Barbeau was the voice of the chess master in The Thing? The only female voice in that movie, too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when Kurt Russell's playing the chess master in the beginning, and that's her.
Right on.
Because at that time, her and John Carpenter were dating. So he found a way for her in there. So you got in through the Buster Crabbe. Then you went to the Sam Jones. And I know you're a big Sam Jones fan. And you did me the great honor of sending me the Sam Jones card, which I super appreciated.
Right.
And in that AOK, you also included a Midnight Western Theater cover, which is probably one of my favorite covers of the year. That thing was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I love that series. I don't know why. I really love those 2 main characters. I thought they were great. So I get the on-air thank you again for that wonderful AOK you sent. But I want to know if you connected at all with the Alex Raymond art because you were such a big Flash fan. And like when you visualize Flash, which Flash do you visualize? Is it the Sam Jones or did you ever read that comic strip?
I did. I actually own some of those collected books. And some of he did some of the artwork for there were 3 like mini readers, Flash Gordon mini readers, big little books is what they were called. And he did the artwork for those. And I have those in the collection. But if I'm reading like a Flash Gordon novelization, even if I'm reading a Buck Rogers and sometimes even John Carter, reading a novelization of these guys, it's always Sam Jones, Flash Gordon that I'm seeing in my mind's eye.
Nice. I was curious who you saw.
Yeah, that one always stuck with me, and we were talking in the green room before we came on, and I do have something this is super cool. So I sent you. I found the Sam Jones NFL football cards.
Yes.
Because in the movie, Flash Gordon played for the Jets, for the New York Jets, and so it was 1980. So they made a 1980 Sam Jones Flash Gordon football card, and I got to go to FanX about a month ago and actually meet Sam Jones and spend some time talking with him, and I got mine signed.
Nice.
And if you look on the front, he actually signed it Flash on the front and Sam Jones on the back.
Oh, how nice of him is that? Double signed by the man himself.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
That's very cool. So, and I think I remember watching a clip of you talking about it, and you said he was really nice in person.
Yeah, he's super cool dude. Like, he was really cool.
Well, and the guy's been around forever. It's nice that, I mean, that's the one thing he's super famous for, and then he went through his trials and tribulations, but it's cool that he's a down-to-earth guy now.
Well, he was really cool because he took the time to stop and talk to me, not about Flash Gordon, because, everybody that goes up to him is a Flash Gordon fan. That's why they go there. But, like, he sat and took the time to talk to me about his appearance on Stargate SG-1, which he played an awesome character on that, and he was talking about how that was supposed to become a different show, and he was going to star in it and all these things. But, yeah, it was a really cool conversation.
Well, I love SG-1. I don't remember that episode with him. I'm going to have to look it up. I haven't watched it in years.
They were stranded on the planet, or he was stranded, a bounty hunter stranded on the planet, and they had to fix his ship to get off, and like some back and forth with him and Sam. It was really cool.
Nice. That's Stargate is a super guilty pleasure of mine. I love all things Stargate.
Yeah, that's a great show, and I just found out that the Stargate, like the SG Command, their fan club, one of their largest chapters is right here in Salt Lake, so I'm gonna have to join that.
Ooh, very nice. All right. Now, Nick, I knew you had a question for him. I don't want to ask all the questions, so I'll let you go, sir.
No, well, I mean, for me, I caught on with the Rogue because of the guys from the Tomorrow chat. And I had happened in on a Saturday, and you were doing some pressing stuff. So what I had wanted to know was how you hooked up with those guys, because you seem to get along with Travis and Herm and pretty much the whole station movement.
Well, it all started. I was out of comic books for a long time. I'm a retired Army Ranger, and it's kind of taken me on some adventures, and we spent like 12 years in Central Illinois, and that whole time I didn't touch a single comic book. And I moved back to Utah about 4 years ago, and the very first thing I did is go to my LCS. My buddy that started with me some in the early 90s. And so that got me back into comic books. And like everybody else, first thing you do is you go to YouTube and learn what's going on with the hobby. And the first person you come across is Comic Tom.
Yep.
So I watched a couple of Tom's videos, and he got me onto watching Reggie and Bueller. And then, so I'm watching Bueller and found out that I had a lot in common with Bob. And I can't remember what the situation was. It was like a book I had that he was looking for. And I was like, I can send this to you. And I said it in a chat, and we talked back and forth and found out that we have a lot in common. We became real good friends. And then, like, because I spent so much time in his chat, if you spend any amount of time in any YouTube chat in comic books, you're going to end up talking to Travis, TM Nerd.
For sure.
So
True enough.
That was kind of my gateway into all of those guys. Chamorro reached out and asked if I'd want to be on his What You Reading panel. He does once a month. And I can do that. I can talk about comics once a month. And so I got into that chat, and it just kind of blew up from there. Actually, I think that's where I bumped into Gary the first time.
Yeah, it is. I was going to say, I think all of us bumped into you first on Chamorro's show.
Yeah. I mean, the kid's doing great work, and I think he's getting just an amazing reach out into the community.
And man, he's got production skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much that Manny doesn't not do well. Singing, acting, editing.
He doesn't grow a mustache well.
Yeah.
Rob's corner in the mustache game. Oh, goodness. Now, besides Star Trek, besides Stargate and besides Flash Gordon, what other loves do you have that is sci-fi related? Because it seems sci-fi's played a pretty big part in your life and your imagination. Has that always been your escape when you needed it?
It really has. I grew up a gypsy, like I'm gypsy descent, I'm Catholic in a small town in northern Utah. So it was like there were two non LDS church going families in our community. It was us and the Baptists from across the tracks. So spent a lot of time playing Dungeons and Dragons and that type of stuff. But yeah, Star Trek was and still is really big for me. All the sci-fi stuff. I was an avid reader, so I'm one of those weird guys that my mom brought me a Playboy once, and it's like, you got to check this out. And it was James Bond, and I read James Bond in Playboy magazine, and I didn't really for years before I even realized that there were naked girls in there.
The Ian Fleming?
Yeah, original Ian Fleming shorts were published in Playboy. So
you really did read it for the articles then?
We found that guy.
Yeah, I would be that guy. I would be that guy.
Nice.
Can I ask you have a lot of connection with Hive Comics. You seem to come across with a lot of those exclusive sweet bangers that they got. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with them?
Well, Hive is right here in Salt Lake. And we were actually in a group together on Facebook when it went, and this was a little over maybe a year and a half ago. And somebody had mentioned something about pressing and cleaning. And I said, I do pressing and cleaning. James reached out to me. He's like, you're in Salt Lake and you do pressing and cleaning. Are you any good? I'm like, no, I'll probably fuck up your book. Bring them on over. Come on. So, yeah. And they just brought me dumped a whole bunch of books off, and I pressed them for them, and we've been good buddies ever since. So they're helping me they helped me get together my first exclusive cover, and we're going to be doing there's some cool stuff coming up that we're going to be doing together. So
very nice.
Yeah. I do quite a bit with them. They're great guys. They do a lot for our community.
Is that where you do your show from too?
No.
Okay.
No, Hive Comics, they work out of their house. Like all they do is small batch exclusive covers, mostly indies. I think they've done one Marvel book.
They did a Peach Momoko Spider-Man. They were in on that one. It wasn't an
exclusive. Yeah.
That wasn't an exclusive. Never mind. That was just something they were selling.
Yeah.
There was something else though.
But they had something to do with that. They're kind of the ones that discovered Peach Momoko. So they had her doing what was it? No Heroin.
Yeah, I have all the pencil sketch variants for all three of those. Those are beautiful.
They are great books. They are great books. But she did a couple Source Point books for Hive, and Jonathan actually owned another exclusive comic book cover business before Hive Comics, and did a couple with those. She did a couple with him before that in Source Point Press. He was just selling them the other night on Whatnot too. But yeah, and they discovered Maria Key. They've got a lot of. They're really putting Stan Yak on the map right now. Like his stuff is blowing up like crazy because they've worked so closely with him.
Yeah, I'm waiting on some of the key Cult of Dracula stuff from them.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually have a full set of the medals, the Maria Key medals.
Those are the ones I'm waiting on. Coming back from CGC, as Rob mentioned earlier, I guess.
So what do you think about the metal covers? Because I've never actually gone in and bought one. Are they worth it? Are they that nice?
It's really, for me, it's a hit and miss. I mean, they're obviously nothing but a cover purchase when you get into something like that.
Right.
But for me, it really depends on the artist, the cover. The Maria Key one really pops. That one's spectacular. Like, that's beautiful.
Oh, put it back up a second, Nick.
This
is the audience can see it.
Shannon Mayer.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's absolutely beautiful in person.
Yeah.
Did it do a 9.9 because it's metal? Wow.
No, you still got the interior and the back stuff. So
Yeah, but that's a CBCS, right? That's CBCS, right?
yes.
So that CBCS 9.8, that's a CGC 11. So
Now, what's your point of view on the different grading companies, Eric? Just as someone that's been around in the comic business for a while.
I gotta be careful how I word this. I used to work very closely with one of the major grading companies, not PGX. I can say not PGX.
One of the big two.
So, I press and clean books. That's what I do for a living. That's how I pay my bills. I don't have in my personal collection. I do not have a single slab book. It's pointless for me. I do sell them, and I do buy them and sell them. Got this in just the other day.
Ooh. Did you contact Magic Lasso and let him know it's out there?
But I don't, they all have pros and cons, right? I personally, I've taken the time because 3 years ago, when I got out of comics, there was no grading. When I got back into it, it was a huge thing. So I was thinking, there's no reason why CGC needs to corner this market. I can grade a comic book. So I was looking at slabs and what they do right and what they do wrong, and coming at it from the preservation of the comics, from that end of it. And at that time, the new CGC slabs are great. They're UV protective. They are made the way that they should be. The old ones are not. And I see a lot of books come to me in old slabs that need to be cracked and cleaned and repressed and replacing staples and, all that kind of stuff. So quality-wise, I think CBCS has a better quality product. Their slabs just look better. They fit the books better. I think if you hold a CBCS slab, it just feels sturdier. It just does. But right now, with the mindset that the community has, you can't argue with CGC's higher price. They just fetch a higher price. And I think a lot of that's the labels.
See, that's where it's good to be a guy like me who only slabs for my personal collection, because like I just said, I had 20 books out. They're all out at CBCS because I've started switching over because, like you said, they just feel more solid.
They do.
And I had just got that, and I hope that CBCS starts doing magazines at some point, because I sent my Savage Sword Draconian out, and it came back in 9.4 from CGC. I had obviously no problem with the grade on a book that old, but man, those magazine ones, they feel flimsy as hell.
They're still using the old magazine slabs. And I mean, I don't know. I can get into all kinds of, because I hear it from all directions, I can get into all kinds of like stories about the different grading companies. And if you want to go down that road, I'm happy to do it because I'm not afraid of them. But most YouTube channels don't like me to talk about that kind of stuff because they don't want to get on the radar of CGC and like get any blowback from that.
Let's kill them, Gary. Who cares?
Yeah, well, we're just having a conversation anyway. It's not like,
I'm cool
all conversations at this point are the opinions of those who speak them, and not necessarily that of Gary B, the casual guy. If you disagree, tough luck. Turn off the damn channel and move on. All right.
So,
legal disclaimer taken care of.
Actually, it's funny that we were even on this topic, because I don't know if you noticed, Diamond announced today that they just bought a grading company.
Right. They have they got the CBA, which doesn't do comics. They do video games, toys, die-cast, collectible dolls.
Yeah. But
But
they don't do comics yet.
yeah, that's always the assumption is you expect that they're going to try to go down that road, and once they go down that road, and to me, it becomes a pointless endeavor, because it's just like I've lambasted PGX recently since they launched 9.8 Wednesdays. Is if you're going to be the grader and you're going to sell, and in their case distribute your own graded books, then your grades now have a conflict of interest.
Right.
CGC has started to go down that route a little bit with the with the recent Todd McFarlane and the upcoming J. Scott Campbell books, where they are selling, quote unquote, not selling directly, but they are essentially arranging for you to buy a book that is going to be signed and delivered by those artists, that has a special COA that CGC then is going to encapsulate and give you your book, but they're not guaranteeing your grade. So, I mean,
Right.
they're dancing on the edge.
Right. I mean, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff that makes me look twice at these grading companies, right? For one of the early Comic Tom videos I saw was where he took a bunch of books to get them graded at a convention, and they turned them around in 48 hours. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know where you're going to conventions, but I know that Emerald City, they're not turning around that many comic books in 48 hours with 3 people on staff.
Yeah.
They're not getting the attention that they need. So there's issues like that. And recently, like this Wonder Woman is a perfect example. I sent the book in. They sent me a message and said, I'm sorry, we determined that it's worth more than what you said it was, so we're going to have to charge you accordingly. Yeah. And they bumped me up a couple $100.
Yep.
To get it graded. Like, if I get to set the price, like I do that with my cleaning and pressing service, right? I insure every book I touch before I even take it out of the bag. Like, you're a fool if you don't. And it's my fee for that is 2% of whatever the declared value is. Well, if I get to set the declared value, I could say that book's worth $100,000 and you owe me a lot of money.
Right.
So I don't understand why we give them so much power over our hobby. Just aggravates the hell out of me.
Because the fanboys have said that they're the best.
Well, and that's exactly it.
And the second you bother to even suggest otherwise, you are attacked like a pack of ferocious hyenas who haven't eaten in a week, and you're a gazelle.
Right.
And also, when you're in the charging like that for what the value of a book, then it's in your best interest to give it a higher grade so you can charge a customer a bit more.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I do it the way I do it. I charge a flat fee for pressing and cleaning. Just, this is how much it is. I don't care if it's silver. I don't care if it's modern. No matter what book you send me, that's how much it's going to cost you to get it cleaned and pressed. And then there's the insurance fee. And that's to make sure I've never messed up a book, but that's to make sure that if I do, because I'm fallible, that it's taken care of. But I let the customer decide how much that book's worth.
Right.
If they send me an Amazing Fantasy 15 and insure for $200 and I mess it up, they're only getting $200. That was their decision.
Right.
And that just
like
keeps me on.
When you're shipping books out to somebody, if you don't do the extra insurance and you send out a $2,000 slab and you only took the $50 USPS, well, guess what?
Right. Absolutely. But so that, I mean, CGC, and I could go on all night with CGC horror stories. I could go on all night with great, successful things that they've done as well.
Yeah.
And I could do that with CBCS as well. PGX, I don't have anything positive to say about them guys.
They're cheap.
That's like, buy a comic skin. If you want a slab that's cheap and you don't care what the resale value is, buy a comic skin or a gator guard.
Now I know people will say that, but I'm gonna. As a person who's used all three of them, and I don't use PGX any longer, but had used them quite extensively for a while. Recently, I started taking some of my collection out, and I will tell you guys that the notion that PGX doesn't sell and it sells for a lot less is a fallacy that is not accurate, because I have recently sold several key books that were PGX books, and they sold, yes, for less than the CGC, but we're talking about less than 5% difference than the current market value on those. So there is less people looking at them, but the people that are looking at them want to go. As long as you're not trying to gouge them, the book is desirable, it will sell.
Right. And I get into that conversation, especially CGC, CBCS. I get into that conversation a lot. And I stay on top of these things. This is what I do for a living. I don't flip burgers at Burger King as well. This is what I do. I sit in front of my computer, I clean and press books, and I look up comic book news, listen to you guys on the YouTubes. This is what I do. I have seen in the last 3 months that value, especially on higher end books, CBCS holds every bit as much value as the CGC. There really is very little, if any, disparity between the two anymore.
Correct.
And this is just my opinion. I've talked to the people over at CBCS, and I know that Bueller has as well. The biggest issue, the only thing that keeps them from being number one in the industry, is he refuses to change his labels.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's got his reasoning for doing it, but at the end of the day, what do your customers want? And if that's really the thing that's holding you back, okay, I don't know if it's, for God's sakes, the CGC label is a freaking white sticker, for God's sakes. Buy a roll of white stickers and give your customer the option.
Well, and there's so much that he could do too. He can get in with Image and get in with DC and do custom labels like that. I mean,
you could, but I'd settle for him right now to focus on being able to be faster and equal but faster. And right now their receiving times are almost as bad as CGC is.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to wait 2 months for a book that's been delivered to be received.
But we're also seeing EGS coming up too, and they're starting to make some movement.
So yeah, I did do an experiment and sent them 5 books back about a year ago when I was doing a video comparing all 4 grading companies.
Right.
And EGS, well, I understand they have a certain appeal, especially to people who like to have for their PC, highly customized labels that go with their stuff. That's, as I think I said in my video, people who want to play Barbies with their comics and dress them up, it's a great feature value for them. They're not the cheapest by any stretch of the imagination to have their stuff done. They do have excellent turnaround times, but that slab of theirs, it's a do-it-yourself slab. The hinges on top of it are horrific. You can't put them on a comic wall mount. You can't. When you put them in your box, you can't. There's no label on top of them that you can read easily to see what slab is in that box. Now you can put a lot of slabs in the box because they're so thin.
Right.
But because the slabs are so thin, my experience of a small sample size, only 5 books, that's all I sent in, but all 5 had extensive Newton rings on them because of the fact that the slabs are so thin. The inner well is right up against the outer shell.
Right. Yeah.
That kills it for me.
But I don't know if you've talked to the guy that owns that company.
I did back then, a year ago, it's just under a year ago. I talked to him.
And he's a real nice guy. And,
absolutely.
And we've had a couple great conversations about comics, and he disagrees with my stand on it, and I disagree with his. But what's holding him back is he wants to be a one-man show. And there's no integrity. Like, at least with CGC, at least they tell us there's 3 people looking at our books.
And we know that's false, right, Gary?
But at least they told us.
No way 3 people agreed that first appearance of Destro was a 4.5 that I cracked the other day. I sent a book in that came back and they said it was a 4.5 and it had a stain on the front cover. We couldn't find it whatsoever.
Wow.
I cracked that thing on the camera. Sent pictures to Scott at Hoarders High and some other folks, and everybody's come back and said, I mean, yes, it has pressing issues, even though it was supposedly pressed by a local presser I no longer use. But the book as it sits right now, it's a solid 7.5. And if you press it, it's probably an 8.85.
Now, do they put it under special lights though, where they might see a
I
stain
checked
that
for the
you
black
can't
light.
see?
I went and found the black light to go look, and can't find any evidence of any stain anywhere on the cover of that book that they're claiming is there. So they're just high, and there's no way that 3 people checked it. But you know what? Given the volume that goes through there, I've had hundreds of books go through there with minimal complaints from me. So realistically, there's a percentage, right? And it's a low percentage of issues, but it just kind of stings when it does happen.
That just made me think. My grader notes on this tell me that there's a small hole in the center of the cover. There's no hole in this book. What the hell?
That's it. Let's crack it.
I'm about to. Well, it's a 4.0 and it's never been pressed.
Oh, well, see, if you're going to press it anyways, then.
It's actually on consignment, and the guy didn't want to pay for the insurance to have me press it. And he's like, well, will you just press it anyway? I ain't going to press that book without insurance. You're crazy.
Yeah. Well, then if it's on consignment, then it takes another god number of weeks to get it back after they slab it.
Well,
now, Eric, do you see this trend with getting books graded slowing down at all? Do you think it's just a trend, or do you think it's going to stay hot for quite a while?
We did see a dip over the past couple of months. It seems to be picking back up again.
Modern books have taken a dip.
Yeah.
Pre 1975 books are worse.
They are, but everybody, the only time I see somebody's books is when they're sending them in to be graded. So it gives me some good idea of how many are being graded. Now, I don't know if it was because of summer. The guys at Hive said it's because of the summertime, and comics, as a general rule, kind of dip down a bit during the summers. But it did kind of die off a little bit, and I started to get a little concerned. And then all of a sudden, I've got more work than I can handle again. So I'm not, and it's modern books. I mean, I've got like a huge stack of Last Ronins that are going out, and like all kinds of stuff.
So out of all these modern books that you're pressing, though, which company has the worst nightmare of a book to press, and which has the easiest no work?
Marvel is hands down the worst.
All wavy, right?
Yeah, you get the Marvel Wave. Marvel Black is a serious issue for pressers. Marvel Red is horrendous. The worst books you can ever work on are Red Marvel A covers. They're just horrible.
Those
What I don't get
corners at the bindery are awful too.
Oh yeah.
Right. And what I don't get with the big two is you could see these indie companies putting out books at $3.99 cover price with cardstock covers, almost these great pristine covers, but the big two have this thin wayfish paper. Or if they use big paper, they're charging you $5.99 or $6.99 or $7.99 for the book.
Right. Yeah, and the perfect example of that is Scout. Scout Comics puts out
they're great,
best quality book. I mean, there's a couple smaller publishers. My local guy, Bleak Haven, put out a really nice quality book. Source Point's kind of gone to crap. Black Mask does a pretty decent book if you can ever get them on time and then get that packed properly. You've got a good book, but that's hit and miss with them. So, yeah, Scout by far, hands down, has the best quality, just right off the rack books.
And you said you're a reader. What are you mostly reading?
Well, I read Star Trek. I read my sci-fi stuff. Star Trek. They're doing great work with Star Trek right now. Firefly is another one. They've got 3 different series going on for Firefly, and I buy every single cover of those. The Warhammer 40K stuff is really good. I've been reading those. Pretty much, I don't read any. I was reading Batman for a while. I've kind of fallen off of Batman, but I don't do much with the big two. The Sumerian, everything they put out for the Sumerian has been fantastic.
Well, I would fight you on that.
Oh, I love the Sumerian stuff. I don't care much for Conan, but the Sumerian's been really, really cool.
Oh, we're losing Eric's signal.
Gotta be careful.
I like Sumerian.
See, and I'll talk about it just for a sec. Look, with the Sumerian, because I'm a big Robert E. Howard reader.
Right.
In fact, before we started the show tonight, I was reading some more Robert E. Howard, and I read his stories over and over again, yearly, all the time. Right? I'm never not reading Robert E. Howard. So my problem with them is they put the story in the back of the book, which is awesome. I think that's a great move, and they call it an adaptation. But I'll pick on the 2 I thought they did the worst with, and that's Red Nails and the Frost Giant's Daughter. Red Nails, they changed a few key things in that story. The story's right there. Key things that Conan does or another character does, and you change it. The change made no sense. And then they changed some of the prose to modern prose instead of keeping the prose.
Yeah.
And that takes you out of the time period. So Red Nails is one of my favorite stories. And to me, there's no better Red Nails adaptation than the Barry Windsor Smith, Roy Thomas one. That nailed it in every way as good as you can nail it, in my opinion. So I was really disappointed with that one. And with the Frost Giant's Daughter, that's a story I've read, I don't know, dozens of times too. And it's a great story. And it's the story of a young Conan starting out. But then they took the focus off of that just to throw in this girl doing a bunch of stuff naked, which didn't make any sense in that story. That was just all added fluff just there to get the younger boys to buy the book, and it didn't add anything to the story. It actually just dragged it out for another issue just to sell another book.
Yeah.
But I did think they did the People of the Black Circle. I thought they did that fantastically. And I'm enjoying the one that just came out now. The Shadow Eaters of Zambula was okay. And the new one that's out now, I didn't like the way they drew Conan, but I thought the storytelling so far is really good in this one.
Yeah, I haven't even started on that one yet.
But I'm a stickler for adaptations. If you're going to adapt something, for me, I need it very faithful to the source.
Right.
If it's literature. If it's movies, you got to adapt it for the medium. But if you're adapting a literary work, I at least need you to bring the literature part over correctly.
I can accept that. I do think, I do think I'm getting really old because I had a thought and it just kind of escaped me.
You don't have to be old for that. It's called having.
Yeah, it happens to me all day, Eric. No worries.
I always like to. I like to say I have a mind like a steel colander. It's full of holes and just goes right through it.
Every time. Oh yeah, I know what I was gonna say. So one thing that I'm really big on right now, I like the resurgence of horror comics.
Yes.
I think that Ice Cream Man kind of kicked off something that has been missing for many years. I'm a huge pre-code guy. I love pre-code horror. And I kind of, a lot of the stuff coming out now with Ice Cream Man and Ha Ha have been kind of in that vein, but really, Midnight Western Theater and
I loved it.
Cherry Blackbird.
Doing it. Like it eats what feeds it, or
Oh yeah.
the one with the children was really good. It was sci-fi and Children of the Graveyard. I thought was a great horror series. And Scout really, I thought, started really kicking off the horror in this modern age really well.
Right. But yeah, there's a lot of great indie stuff going on. I'm really excited for the direction of comic books right now, because like even back in the early 80s when indies were hitting really big, before Image and all that kind of blew up and ruined the market, there was kind of an underground feel to the indies books, and we're getting a lot of that back. And there's so many indie companies that are putting out just high quality stuff that it's a great time to be a collector for sure.
Yeah, it's just hard on the wallet now because there is such a gluttony of good stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
All right.
what's your favorite age of comics to collect?
For my personal collection, it's probably bronze, copper
Same.
bronze. Right now, because that's stuff I grew up with. And right now, like everybody, I got out of comics. A lot of my comics went by the wayside. And I have an Amazing Spider-Man 300 horror story of horror stories.
Ooh.
But in my life, there were 3 long boxes of comic books that followed me everywhere I went. And I didn't even open them until I got back to Utah. They had been completely sealed for like 10 years. And I went through that collection, decided at that time that I'm not really into Spider-Man anymore. You know, I really was when I was younger. I identified with the character, but I really wasn't there. And who do I like now, and what speaks to me now? And it was Defenders #1. So a small Defenders run, and that's the first one I started with. I now have that complete first Defenders run. I was able to finish that. I'm working on Conan, and then Indiana Jones, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, the stuff I grew up with.
Great classics. And some of those too, like I like to talk about. But what about ROM? You got to be a ROM fan being a sci-fi guy, right? Or
I never really got into ROM. ROM was never in my world. To me, growing up, I saw G.I. Joe, I saw Silverhawks, I saw, Thundercats and Transformers, because those were on Fox.
Mm.
So it's a terrestrial. ROM wasn't on Fox. The ROM cartoon used to be on like TNT or TBS, one of those. And so I never got to see that. So I never got into ROM.
Now, what I like about these older things too, you got ROM, you got Micronauts, you got, like the G.I. Joe, but you don't see collected editions of those because of the licenses. So you either have those books or you don't. And it adds something special to them, I think.
Right.
Battlestar.
All right,
Oh,
so
yes.
let's get to the $1 million question, because I've heard you mention Star Trek a few times tonight. Who is your captain?
Archer.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah. Like it all started with Archer. Like he built the Federation.
You don't hear that often.
I like it.
Yeah, and it's a show that got canceled way too soon.
It was
Especially
underrated.
when you hear where they were going with it. They really jumped the shark on that one.
The first season was really rough for that show, but once they started getting out of the episodic and went into a serial type of delivery, that show became so good.
It did. And the Andorian character that was on there,
yes,
like he was supposed to join the crew in the 4th season. Like that would have completely changed everything. I was really disappointed.
I can't remember that actor's name, but man, he's just played a ton of different alien characters in Star Trek and different versions too.
But yeah, Archer's my favorite captain. Followed real close by Cisco. I'm a huge DS9 guy.
But only after Cisco becomes Hawk, right?
Yeah.
Once he shaves the head and grows a goatee, all of a sudden, damn, Hawk is the captain. He's good.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm such a DS9 nerd that like my internet at the house is Starfleet Command, and my password is the call letters for the Defiant.
So there you go. Anybody there wants to steal internet if you're in the area?
Yeah, no. But it's the second Defiant, not the first one.
Ooh, giving it deep.
Nice. Now, so you must have a favorite Star Trek episode then. And so give us a quick, what's your favorite Star Trek episode?
I think the best Trek episode that they've ever done has got to be Yesterday's Enterprise. It was so impactful to everything that followed it in the Next Generation, and it really played with the time variation lines and what it means to sacrifice for your fellows, and I just think it's the most human story they've ever done. But yeah, Yesterday's Enterprise was pretty awesome.
Now, what did you think of the new movies they made?
I really enjoyed them. Same
here.
They didn't make those with Star Trek in mind. They made those to appeal to a broader audience and not the Trekkies. But for what they are, I enjoyed them. I thought they were good. I don't necessarily, like, on the ranking of everything individually, what is Star Trek, Voyager falls way down. I still love Voyager, but it falls way down at the bottom because I don't need Star Trek 90210. That's not my thing.
Right.
I don't care who's in a ship with who. I want them to shoot some Klingons. And that, to me, when they started getting Uhura and Spock together and all that kind of stuff, that just got a little weird. Even
Worf, you want him to shoot Worf too?
Sometimes he deserves it. Worf can be kind of a dick, man.
We got to get him a Taylor Winder "Don't Be a Dick" T-shirt that he can wear on the ship.
Don't be a dick. Drink prune juice.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we got your favorite episode. Out of all the movies, favorite Star Trek movie.
Favorite Wrath of Khan.
I was going to say that's everyone's answer, just about.
Everybody has to go Wrath of Khan, and then Voyage Home. Like it kind of diverges after those two. Like everybody's Wrath of Khan, Voyage Home, and then they go different directions.
But nobody ever says Final Frontier.
I love Final Frontier. Like
but nobody calls it their favorite.
Yeah, that was the one with
maybe Bill
and
Shatner.
But that was the one with the two captains, right?
No, Final Frontier was Star Trek
when they
5.
met God.
When they go searching for God.
Okay. Yep.
Essentially, yeah.
I mean, I got that one on because I see what they were trying to do with that one. They were trying to explore theology and science fiction and all that. And it's tough when you're in a science fiction setting and you try to tell a theological story. It's near impossible. Star Wars can get away with it because they're not science fiction; they're more fantasy.
Right? Yeah, they're based off of basic tropes of mythology.
Right, and really the only time I've seen theology done well in science fiction was Babylon 5. I mean, they just did it right.
I don't know. Red Dwarf did a great job with the cats and.
Oh, I haven't thought about Red Dwarf in forever.
Now that's the American Red Dwarf, right?
No. The British Red Dwarf. We don't recognize the existence of.
I didn't even know there was an American.
We don't recognize the existence of the original the American Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I've never seen him. I didn't know there was an American.
It was I think there's like a couple episodes that exist somewhere on YouTube if you really want to suffer through it.
No,
yeah, there's like 3 episodes.
For me. I didn't even know. There's probably a reason I didn't know because it was that bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
See, I learned something tonight. I did not know there was an American Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
What was that other funny show they had too? Like, what was it, Zev?
Well, that wasn't BBC. That actually came out of Canada or UK or Sweden. Or is it?
That was either Australian or
it was part of it. Yeah, it was New Zealand.
In the Shire where the hobbits live, New Zealand.
Yeah. You're talking about Lex was the name of the show.
Yeah,
Zev was the character, the female lead. If that's what you're talking about, Gary.
It is.
The show, the ship's shaped like a mosquito.
Another one I haven't seen since I was a child.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have been watching that as a child. That's not the show.
There's a lot of stuff I shouldn't have watched as a kid, but I did.
I know. I used to watch.
He wasn't bugging his parents. He didn't care.
When I was in grade school, again, with 4 channels, we would watch MASH.
Yep.
And then after MASH came the Benny Hill Show.
Oh.
And then Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Every night.
Benny Hill was a staple in the house.
Well, you have to really run the gamut there. I mean, that takes care of every single need you have in those 3 shows you get.
Yeah, I'm a huge MASH nerd too. I love MASH.
I've been rewatching that. Started a while back. It's kind of like whenever I have not a lot of time, but I can squeeze in 20 minutes. I'll sit down and I'll queue up an episode, rewatching them all from the beginning, just going like, for the show. I mean, aside from their treatment of the women, which doesn't hold up very well at all these days, a lot of it's actually was very progressive in how they tried to take on a lot of social issues. It's just as long as you weren't a woman.
Well, I think in the later years, maybe of the run of that show, it was like 11 years, the last 5 seasons, when Loretta Swit was able to, inject her voice into it. That, like, you saw some real storylines going on there with the women and how the men treated them, and
not just as sexual objects. Yeah.
Now, you touched on horror earlier. Are you also a fan of horror in cinema? And what's some of your favorite cinematic horror, if you are?
I like horror, right? I own this extensive collection of Universal movie monsters. I've got like the original Dracula and Frankenstein and all that, and we do this thing where we will watch, and we do this every year around Halloween, and we're doing it now, where you'd watch the Bela Lugosi Dracula, then you would watch Francis Ford Coppola's version, right? And then you do the same with Frankenstein, the Mummy, and all that. So I do like those type of monster things, and I watch right now. I'm watching 2 episodes a night of Tales from the Crypt, the old HBO Tales from the Crypt, and which do not hold up, by the way, but they're so fun to watch. But I don't like slasher type stuff. I'm not a big Freddy fan.
Me either. They're boring.
Yeah, they're just boring to me. They don't scare me.
There's no story.
Give me the old creature features.
Right. And I've seen enough gore and blood in real life in my lifetime that I don't need to see that without a story. But for that very reason, I'm a huge fan of everything Rob Zombie's ever put out on film.
So what's your favorite horror movie of all time now, then?
My favorite horror movie of all time, I would say my personal favorite would probably Devil's Rejects.
Oh, that's a pretty modern one.
It is. I think the storytelling in that, the way that he crafted that, was brilliant. The character development made you care for people that are just not redeemable. I love the way that he did that, and I just think it's brilliant.
Nice. See, that's a surprise to me. I was waiting for you to pick something old and classic, and you went with something modern.
Well, I think probably the best, now that's my favorite, but the best horror movie ever filmed has got to be The Changeling.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time. I got to write that down and rewatch it.
Yeah,
I don't even remember it.
Yeah, and it still holds up. I mean, it's brilliant writing, and George C. Scott is a phenomenal actor, and yeah. So
Well, and that was great about them too. All the main actors, they weren't afraid of doing horror back then. They would sign up and just do these movies, and they were just great.
right.
I mean, you even had Christopher Lee being Dracula for a while, and just it's just a lot of fun. But
I love those old Hammer horror. Like I will sit here and just put those on in the background because they're so cheesy and so fun.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. You're either in the mood for cheese or real horror or really serious horror.
Right.
And I think for the same reason as you, I don't really connect with slasher flicks. They just put me to sleep. There's no drama to them. There's no tension. There's no connect.
Well, I think there's a certain level of exploring character that needs to be done, and I was reflecting on this because we recently watched Stranger Things, which is set kind of in that era where all the slasher flicks started, Friday the 13th and Halloween and Nightmare. And then it got me to thinking about the American Horror Story 1984. So if I think what kills Horror Story or those type of movies for me is they didn't develop the characters. Like I don't care. I don't want to see somebody get murdered. That's not why I go to a horror. I want to be scared. I want to feel for the character. I want
right. And there's no tension for someone that's just resurrected constantly.
Yeah, I don't really care about the death of the teenager of the week. It doesn't. There's no consequence.
The couple that has snuck out to the woods to do it that now die.
Well, right, because they haven't connected you to those characters in any way at all.
Yeah.
And honestly, my biggest connection is that they probably deserve it because they were picking on the kid that was reading comic books, and that was me back in high school.
So you need more than one jump scare per movie.
Right.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of the movies that I like that fall into that genre aren't necessarily what I would call great plot hitters either. But I mean, it's just kind of what I grew up with was watching the creature features and stuff that were on the UHF channels late at night and stuff. And then that rolled into watching MST3K and
I love MST.
And then yelling at them to shut up so I could watch the movie, and then having to go back and go get the movies, and buying out the Laserdisc catalog from Full Moon Studios when they were going out of business on Laserdiscs and selling them for $1 a pop, and just like all those type of campy B horror films were.
And Full Moon's back now.
Oh, I know. But I mean, at the time, there was a time where like when Laserdiscs were going away, they were basically had their entire catalog. It was like there was only like 12 of us that had Laserdisc players left, and probably I was the only one who cared about a Full Moon Studio Laserdisc, and so they were $1 a pop. And so when Laserdiscs used to be 120 or something, you're like $1. Hell yeah! I'm like Louie in the candy store at the comic book store. Dollar bin wins, baby.
Now, we know you like horror. We know you like sci-fi. Well, but let's put them together. Are you a fan of movies like Aliens and John Carpenter's The Thing? Things that combine the elements of sci-fi and horror together? Oh,
yeah, of course. I mean, I saw all the Aliens movies first run in the theater. I love Aliens, Predator, all that stuff. And now that I think about John Carpenter's Thing, is probably, God, I love that movie. Like, so underrated. That was
it really is.
Have you seen that one, Gary? I don't know if you've seen John Carpenter.
I've heard about it.
You've heard about it? You should put that on your list too.
Yeah, I may have watched it 4 times this week already. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on it. I'm famous for loving that movie way too much. It is my ultimate go to bed movie. I will put that on. Sometimes I don't know. That movie is absolutely perfect to me. I watch it literally every single night. There's almost never a night I don't put that movie on. And sometimes I just sit there and watch the whole thing before I fall asleep.
Like, I'm still holding out hope. I mean, we still have Kurt Russell around. They need to make a sequel. I want to know which one of those two were the thing.
There was a sequel in the comics, a legit sequel that John Carpenter wrote.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I own the books. You can, yeah.
I'll have to look at that.
Neither one of them was the thing. But I thought that was really obvious in the ending to me.
It was really ambiguous to me.
And you know why I thought it was obvious?
Because you've watched.
Because if either one of them was the thing, there's nothing to stop it from taking over the last one. If either one of them are the thing,
Oh yeah,
you only have one person left, and that person's just been put through the ringer. That's an easy assimilation.
yeah.
There would be no reason for the other one not to attack the other. No reason whatsoever.
Except for the sequel.
Right. But no, there was a comic, and then they did another series after that run. I will send you pictures of them because they're about $20 a piece to buy now. They're hard to find.
I probably own them. I know I got some Thing comics, and I've just never read them.
It's called The Thing from Another World. But it's a direct sequel.
All right.
And
send me a picture of that. I want to check it out.
I will. I'll have to dig them out of the long box and get them to you this weekend or something and send you the pics. Really fun. Wow, I can't believe you. There, we've all learned something new tonight. It's awesome. And I got to look up the change lead again. All right, now I got to know because we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, so we'll start wrapping it up here in a minute. But before we let you go tonight, I want to know what else you collect besides comics.
Well, I collect Ford Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels or Matchbox, it doesn't matter. Like all kinds of crap. Novels, classic novels. I'm looking to complete my Bachman collection, but that's very expensive. And then I have like a first print Three Musketeers. I'm a huge fan of the Three Musketeers.
Alexander Dumas.
Yeah, Dumas. The D'Artagnan romances. I've got a couple one sheets, original prints, and stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of those. But recently, my thing is, so I'm on this journey where I'm writing a comic book, and the comic book is The Rogue Trader, and the Rogue Trader is a character that crosses dimensions and time and all that type of stuff, and he has a shop where he sells his wares, and so you can go into him to get something like, I don't know, Zeus's Thunderbolt or Thor's Hammer, or you can buy this kind of stuff from him. And kind of on that journey, two things I got for Christmas last year were I got the One Ring and I got 2 dark sabers.
Ooh.
So I'm on this kick where I'm collecting one-of-a-kind items like Gandalf's staff, the Elder Wand from Harry Potter is one I'm after, Sting from Lord of the Rings, just that kind of stuff.
So you're preparing for the zombie apocalypse then and collecting all of the one true weapons.
Dude, I would be so done in the zombie apocalypse. Like watching fat people run down the street and get eaten, I would start laughing and it would be over. Like that to me, it would.
Or is that I resemble that? I'm not sure which, but
like to me, that would be the funniest thing in the world, watching people trip and fall and get taken down by a horde of zombies. Like you can't even outrun shambling zombies.
There was you just reminded me of a Conan story from Dark Horse. It was like a 3-page story, right? It was in the back. It was like Conan's idea of a joke. and there's this rogue running away from him who trips and falls on his own sword. And the next panel is just Conan laughing his ass off because he didn't even do anything. Oh, that's what's great about those gosh, what's his name? Woody Harrelson zombie movies, man. Those are hilarious. Those
Oh yeah.
Zombie
just a list. Gotta love them. All right, so we'll start wrapping up. Nick and did you have any last questions for Eric?
Yeah, just to get out of the way, because you have created one of the most epic things I've seen on YouTube. During Comics Curing Cancer, you built this stack of comics that Austin LeMay banger after banger, he was just like, put it on the pile, put it on the pile, put it on the pile. And like $1,200 or $1,300 later, it was like one of the most epic packages I've ever seen. Can we talk a little bit about your charitable functions within the Cancer Society?
Okay, so my wife is a 2-time cancer survivor.
Nice.
I lost my grandfather and my favorite uncle to cancer. And when we moved here 3-4 years ago, my wife landed her dream job, and she works for the American Cancer Society. I am by nature a very cynical person, as I think old dudes like me are. And I looked forever to find a flaw with the American Cancer Society. Like they don't spend enough money here, or they do this shady thing. And I've never been able to find it. So I really believe in that cause, know where the money goes. And to me, because of what I've been through and how cancer has affected my life, I will do absolutely anything I can to raise money for this organization, because I get to be on the front lines when they're giving this money out. I get to go to the Hope Lodge in Salt Lake and cook dinner and play games with the people that are staying there for free while they undergo treatment. So because that's so close to me, I saw the Cardboard Crazy C3 thing, and I was like, dude, I got a couple books that I can auction off. And we did one earlier in the day. And at that time, being as close with Hive Comics as I was lucky enough that they gave me 12 copies of the Blair Witch Stray Dogs #1, wow, which is a huge book now.
Huge.
It wasn't when they gave it to me. They didn't even like the property. But as it turned out, I ended up with 12 of them. And so I auctioned one of those off earlier in the day, and we did it as a stacker and with a few of their other books. And I think we raised pretty close to $300. And they told me the goal. And I was just like, I need to help them hit this goal. So I just went out in the garage and I dug through and just pulled what I thought would go over well. And it just kind of exploded and went crazy. And that second auction was like $1,300. And it's really cool. We're kind of laying low right now, just because of the time of year it is. I've got a short box full of Staniak Hive exclusive stuff, some of those Maria Key medals, a bunch of their medals, actually. I got a whole short box that Hive donated, some stuff other people have donated. I've got some, original Amazing Spider-Man Original Sin #4. I got an ASM, and we're going to do another C3 auction after the first of the year and get it kicked off. But we've actually, because my wife works for ACS, we're actually able to take it national. The website's going to be up in about another month here, where anybody in the nation can sign up for C3 and do their own C3 fundraiser. And we can get local comic shops involved. And all of the money is going to support cancer research and support people in treatment, help them get rides to and from treatment, and all the programs that they have at the American Cancer Society. So C3 is going to take off big in January.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I do thank you for that. As cancer runs rampant through my family, also I do appreciate what you've done and what you continue to do for that cause. So thank you.
You betcha.
That was it, Gare.
Oh, okay. Rob?
Damn, after he goes with something like that, then I'm gonna. All right, let's just get the brass tacks here. When are you sending me that Forbidden Planet Robbie the Robot back there? Oh.
No, that was hard to find.
I know.
That was a difficult one. I went to, I live in Salt Lake. We're a major metropolitan area, and I went to every Walmart, and I ended up picking that one up in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Oof,
all places.
That's a trek.
Yeah.
No doubt. No, I love Robbie the Robot. And
it's a classic for a reason. It's awesome.
It's like, I love to go back there just again to see Leslie Nielsen do so back then and go and compared to how you think of him today, or most of our generation only knows him from like Police Squad and Airplane and all this stuff. But to go back and see him back then, you just go, dude was a handsome devil to boot.
Well, what I really like about this one is that's Forbidden Planet. That's not whatever it was, Space 1999 or whatever show he was on.
Yeah,
that's actually, it says Forbidden Planet on the box. Everything. I had to have that one.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I'm excited. I definitely think I'm interested to check out. I think I got a couple sci-fi classics in my collection over here that need to go through pressing. I might send your way there and let you to test you out and let you at the same time take a look at some nice old Space Ace and some Tom Corbett Space Cadet.
I love Tom Corbett. That's cool. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Nick is my links guy. He's always on the links game, getting it in there. Your links are, of course, posted below in the description, and Nick's got them in the chat as well. And my last question is just a simple one, too. You said you grew up in a small town. So when did you connect with comics, and did you have a LCS in your small town, or was it just you got them at the drugstore or local grocery?
Well, so the town I came from, Willard, Utah, is super small, but it's right between Ogden and Brigham, which are medium-sized towns. Ogden had a comic shop. When I was 8 years old, I was at my grandmother's house, driving her nuts. Summer day, driving her nuts, I'm sure. And so she took me to the store to buy me candy. I went to the store with her, and they had, in a small mom and pop local grocery store, they had a 3-pack of Marvel Tales reprints, Spider-Man. And she bought that. It was 75 cents. I still have the plastic wrapper they came in. I still have the 3 books. But she bought me those 3 Marvel Tale reprints. They are absolutely worthless to anybody else in this world but me, but they are the most prized possessions in my collection. Those were the first 3 books I ever had, and it took off from there.
Wow, that's an awesome story. Hey, I know about collecting stuff that's not worth anything. Most of the comics I own are only worth something to me.
Yeah.
And I would never part with them because I still go back and read them and just get an enjoyment you can't describe from it, you know? Yeah. But that was awesome.
I've got 2 AF-15s, and one of them is probably a 4 or 5. The other one's coverless, and that one's completely priceless because that's the one that Stan Lee autographed for me.
Wow. Nice. When did you get to meet Stan?
I was on a comic book convention at sea. Like, we took a Carnival cruise, and it was a comic book convention. So
nice. And
I was working with the travel agent, so I'm like, hey, if I get to make the seating arrangements, Stan Lee, Jim Lee, let's do this. So,
right? Oh, cover all the Lees in one trip, huh?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, Eric, man, that's awesome. I want to say thank you so much for being on the show. but I want to give you a chance before we do our sign-offs here, to give you a chance to plug anything that you want to plug or shout out anyone that you want to shout out, and then we'll start our goodbyes.
Well, currently I don't have much going on. I do the Chamorro What You're Reading panel first Wednesday of every month, and that's about it. I do have something in the works. We're about to launch a new weekly show. We're going to record it, edit it, drop it probably Sunday mornings. It's going to be me and Fable, and we're going to bring guests in, and I'm going to be working with him to do a couple cool things. So you'll see that in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
We'll be looking forward to it. So, guys, sub him up on YouTube. Set up that notification bell so you know when he has that new content coming out, and you can see what he has happening. Nick, we'll start with you. What do you got coming up, bud?
All right. Well, tomorrow you can catch me on Mark with Legion of Comics. Probably sitting with Rob for a while tomorrow morning as we slack off of work.
No fair. I'll be at work.
Yeah, this weekend not much going on, but I'll be making a trip to CBCS next week. So maybe I'll take you guys along with me, and then I can get some inside access, and we can see what that looks like.
Ask where my 200 books are.
Rob, what have you got going on, bud?
We have a very special Slab Hub this Saturday featuring guest DJ Lynx. We're hoping he's going to bring by his grail he picked up at NYCC as part of his showing, as he shows off some of his prize slabs from his collection. And then Monday, somewhere in here, I'm probably going to squeeze in an extra special mail call that I just picked up off the front porch because I can't wait to open it, because this has a major key book in here that I'm super happy to add to the collection. Monday we'll have the usual golden. There's a golden age, there's some silver age sci-fi, some more Tom Corbett space cadet in here, some Blue Bolt, golden age stuff, and some early 70s Star Wars stuff, bunch of other stuff in the mail call.
Awesome. Now, I want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us. And before we sing you out, like we usually do with the awkward ending, Eric, we always let the guests say the last goodbye before we do the sing out.
All right. See you later, traders.
There you go. All right, here we go. Awkward ending. Awkward ending.
Awkward ending. Awkward ending.
Awkward ending.
Awkward ending. Awkward ending.